Hey everyone, what's going on? My name is Stephanie Graham. I'm an artist and filmmaker, and I'm also an extremely curious person. Some will go as far as to say that I am nosy as the nerve. I started this podcast because I wanted to interview people. I'm not just talking to anyone either. I'm talking to people who are in the thick of what they do. I want to know how they live their life and how they get things done so that I can apply some of their savvy to my own life. I'm sharing this with you so that you too can do the same. We can do it together. We all got to start somewhere, and if you're not looking for practical info, stick around anyway because my guests are fascinating and it's my goal to get to the bottom of their I mean, aren't we all just a little bit curious of what it's like to live someone else's life? And if we do it the same? There are also times when I will feel called to catch up with you one-on-one and let you know about what's going on with me, either in life or with my art practice. You didn't think I'd get the dirt on all these cool people and not let you know what's going on with me, did you? I mean, I'm a Libra. We believe in balance. Listen, I am a big believer that even though we are all different, we can still find ways to relate to each other. It's time to get down to business, so welcome to the noseyAF podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the noseyAF podcast. It is Stephanie, your friend, and this is episode 50. Isn't that so cute? The 50th episode. I am so proud of myself, and I am so thankful that you've been listening to the episode, whether you bounce in and out, if you listen or if you've listened to all 50. Either way, I'm just so happy because you know what? As I work on projects, whether it be like a film gig or like my own work, as I'm trying to come back from burnout and just sort of think about like what I want my art practice to be, this podcast has been a mainstay of something that I always get to work on. And so that has made me so joyful. And so I am so happy. Congratulations, noseyAF, for your 50th episode. For today's episode, it's going to be the very first Q&A episode, which I'm so excited about. You all actually sent in questions, which I was so worried about. You know, I'm so much that kind of a person who is like, will anybody come to my birthday party? Like, I just expect no one to show up, and I probably should not have that mindset, but it's just, I don't know, it's something I'm going to work on. But anyway, you all sent some questions. I'm very thankful. It's about 10 questions, so I figured that I would do 5 today and then 5 another time, and I hope that that plan works out for you because really, I don't need to just be talking to you about myself the whole time. So without further ado, let's get into these questions. So the first question comes from someone who's calling themselves Still Nosy. So this is really funny because on my feedback page where you can submit questions or you can tell me if you think I should be doing something different or add something, there's a space where you can leave your name and you can make your name whatever you want. And so this person has decided to call themselves Still Nosy. And so let's see what they have to say. They are asking, what are your plans for the summer? Follow-up question, what do you like most about summertime shy? So my answer for that is I have 0 plans for the summer. Summer of 2023, which really doesn't feel like it was that long ago, it really felt like a second pandemic to me because of the Hollywood strikes. And unfortunately, this summer of 2024, I feel might also be another Hollywood strike. There's another potential strike with all of the crew, which means me. My union would be a part of this. It's a part of IATSE, and that contract expires July 31st. Hopefully, everyone will come to a deal, and in July, I will just be working on projects, on films, on TV shows, whatever it is, because to be quite honest, your girl needs to stack her coin and I need to get back to work. But if I'm not doing that, I will be on a picket line. I will be on a picket line and fighting with my union brothers and sisters about getting better working conditions and better pay, but hopefully it won't have to come to that. So if you are a prayer warrior, I need you to get your prayer on that we will come to a deal and that everyone will be happy with that deal. And then I guess if it all goes well, I will be working on a film or a TV show and then hopefully be hanging out in somebody's backyard dancing the night away. I mean, keeping it simple. This is a good question for me because I'm really not that reflective. I don't feel like going to anything like into a season, reflecting, planning, or dreaming how I want to spend it. And so this was a good question because I usually just go with the flow. And last year it was just like, okay. I mean, I still did things with friends, like went places and things like that. But that was such a big deal, the strike, and just watching Hollywood, try to figure this stuff out. I think that TV and film right now is just like in its own renaissance and shaking up of like what's going to happen next as it comes to labor and the way that money is spent. And so, we'll see. But yeah, so that's my plans for the summer. Thank you for asking. As far as what I like most about summertime shy, which is what we call the summertime in Chicago, I love the skin. I love seeing everybody break out of cold weather clothing and show off their bodies. I love seeing ladies on the back of motorcycles with way too short of shorts on, just carefree, being ratchet, people grouping up with their classic cars, hanging out, dancing. I love seeing the car clusters. Those things just make me so happy. And I love a classic car. So I feel like it's just going to a car show with people wearing their tank tops and their shorts, freshly washed cars. And it's just wonderful. And I also love walking downtown, hearing people on the rooftops, drinks being poured, people chatting and just enjoying themselves because the city is truly so beautiful. And just seeing how people come out from the darkness, it feels, because it's been so cold. But people are still out in the cold, but it's just more people are out when it's the summer. So that's what I really love about summertime shy. And there's of course all the festivals and whatnot, but what I really, really love seeing when it comes to summertime is the skin and the cars, the freshly washed classic cars riding up and down Stony Island. It just gives me such joy and pleasure. And it is so hot. I just love it. So this next question comes from Teddy B. Thank you, Teddy, for your question. One thing that I don't ask for in this feedback form, there isn't a place for pronouns. And I actually should, the designer of the form I use, I should message them because I was actually in a meeting with them the other day, just giving feedback about the platform. It's a platform called Podgagement. And they were asking, hey, do you have any thoughts? And now that I'm using this to read your question, we need to know your pronouns. So Teddy B, thank you again. And when their question is, when did you know that art was a calling for you? What was your first piece? Okay. So this is a fun question because I never thought that I was an artist because I always associated art with drawing, and I am not good at that. And it wasn't until I was at a youth group for my church where the junior leader was sharing photos that she took in her photo class. And I was like, oh, wow, these are super cool. And art was one of the requirements of our high school. So with me not being able to draw, I took that class thinking, boom, photography, I can definitely do. It will fulfill my art requirement, and it's a camera. Like, how hard can it be? So I took the class, did the assignments, and my first official art piece was this black and white photograph of some playground swings. So simple, right? It was just like, a call to youth, a call to summer and play. I'm just kidding. I have no idea what made me do that. You just had to I think the assignment's like, oh, photograph your neighborhood. And there was like the park with the swing set. And so I just photographed it. I had no reason. Who knows what my thought was? I was so young, but that's what I like to think, that I was like thinking that this would be like an ode to youth, like examining childhood. It wasn't so much about the image that was so great about that being my first art piece, because, as I think about it, that picture, it was not that well exposed. I probably should have stayed a little bit longer at the enlarger. I probably could have burned and dodged a couple places, but, seeing the way that photo came up in the developer, like seeing it sort of start to form, man, that was so cool. I'm like, wow, this is something I made, and here it is coming up through the developer, like through water, right? Because it's like super liquidy, and it's just like a lot of that chemical in that tray. And so the process of the image just felt so glamorous. Like in my high school, to get to the dark room, you had to stand in this like turnstile thing and like turn the turnstile, and then it would open up into the dark room where you hear the water running. It's a red light. People are printing and walking through with their prints. And it's just like a whole other world. And it felt like I was like in a movie, It was like just so cool. And so I really think, the glamour of turning that turnstile door, the red light, not having to draw, I'm just like, this is the place for me, And then I just really liked it. I like taking pictures and, of course, developing them, seeing what my classmates took. And then, what I really enjoyed was the critique. I liked talking about the why and the what. That was really a lot of fun. And even through college, I love critiques. I love critiques now. And just talking about folks' work. I think that's why I loved even just the On the Rock series of just hearing artists talk about their work. That's why I make it so much of a part of this podcast, because I just love hearing process and thoughts of how artists think about the way that they're making. And so, I don't know. The thing about critiquing, though, is like sometimes there's like those too cool for school kids. Like they're in there all buttoned up. They have their arms crossed and they're like, yeah, the mise en scène. Like, oh, shut up. Oh my gosh. But even they're a part of it. They just think they're so cool. They walk up with their arms crossed to the photo. They look up at the light. If it's a film, they have something to say. They're standing up to the side, ready to have a discussion. And it's just like, sir, ma'am. But critique is such a favorite part of art to me. And so, yeah, I felt like being able to be in conversation about the why of different causes, of different thoughts that people had, really made me want to go into art more. And also, I know I said it, but really not having to draw. Because in grade school, we always had to do these art projects and I didn't know how to draw. And so I was like made to feel I wasn't good enough. But anyway, so that was my piece. That's how I came to art, and I also say I came to art through the Lord, because it was in church that I discovered photography through that girl. I think her name's Bridget. Shout out to Bridget, So that was good. So that's good. So thank you so much, Teddy, for that question, Teddy B. Okay, so the next question is actually in form of audio. So This is a really funny question. So let me play this clip for you.
So, as an artist, you should be able to recognize other artists, I would think. Who among all of the Real Housewives do you think has what it takes to be a true visual artist?
Okay, so this question comes from Meg Franklin, who is a friend of the show, fellow artist who paints in super pretty colors. And you can actually hear her on episode number 46, where she talks about her practice. So, true visual artists in the name of the Real Housewives. Okay, this is so ridiculous. So, we already have a few housewives that are artists, okay? Lisa Wu from Real Housewives of Atlanta. She is a painter. If you remember, she even shows a little bit of her painting in an episode. And then I also think she had like a jewelry line and she was like working alongside. She had a collaborator. Um, Kelly Bensimon is a model, but she is also a photographer. Now, you know what? Actually, I don't know if she is a photographer or if she was just taking photos of the ladies when they went on vacation. But then we also have Candy Burris, okay, who's like singer, actress. So she's an artist. But a true visual artist with just working with the visual medium, I would have to say Alex McCord. So Alex McCord was early times on the Real Housewives of New York. She she actually designed Bethany Frankel's Skinny Girl logo. If you remember, for all of my housewife fans, which is I'm probably like now, well, no, I know there's some housewives listeners. So Alex, if you remember, she made that logo for Bethany and she made the legs a little bit too big for Bethany's taste. Bethany thought the legs should be skinny. I mean, she should be a skinnier person. And this was like just a fuller legged girl. I wouldn't even call her plus sized or fat or anything. It just, from what I remember, it was just a thicker leg. And Bethany did not like that. So we already know from that Alex has some type of drawing ability or at least some sort of computer skill. But then on top of that, she was really into, I feel like, society. And, she would be called a social climber. She met her husband through like a one night stand meetup, and he owned a hotel. They recently now, I think she currently lives in Australia studying psychiatry. So she has all of this background that would really lend to being a visual artist. Like, I think she has a lot of things that she could say. And with her computer skills and the drawing, I think that she can actually make something quite interesting, whether it be like a comic strip, if she was to draw scenes, even if she takes a political stance. I think that she would be an excellent artist. And Meg, even thinking about this question, it really makes me think that like housewives, because Luann, she's a cabaret star. I think Sonia Morgan even identified as being an artist one time on that New York Housewives. So I feel like we could actually put together a couple of Dolo exhibitions. Like, we could pair these housewives together and have a series of work like from them, give them a grant, and have them go to town and exhibit the work. And if you guys don't do that, I might look into it. It's free for the taking because I'm totally happy to attend these exhibitions just as a fan, and I really think it could be interesting. Oh my gosh, what a great question. Alex McCourt is one of my favorite housewives, and she was supposed to be, well, she went on a girls trip, an ultimate girls trip, but because Brandy Glanville harassed somebody, sexually assaulted actually, I believe, allegedly, let me say all that, they're not going to show it. They're not going to show the trip. And it was our one time to be able to see Alex McCourt again. And it's just upsetting. Wow, I really went there. Anyway, thanks for your question, Meg. Okay, so the fourth question we have comes from Kristen Edwards. Now, Kristen Edwards is a wonderful lady, and she actually helps folks with leadership and authenticity. Kristen is also a fellow podcaster. Her podcast is called Amplify Ambition, of which, by the way, I was a guest talking about art and creativity. And Kristen is very resourceful. She's very smart, and she's helped me think through a lot of things um, since I was on her show. We've sort of stayed in touch. And I don't know. So if you want to get your confidence together and you want to be a leader, you guys should hit up Kristen. And this is not an ad at all. I just really believe in the work that Kristen is doing. And you know what, y'all? We need some leaders out here. So if you've been called, you feel like you've been called to be a leader, but you like just don't feel good about yourself for some reason, or you just need to like have somebody to cheerlead you into that confidence, I really think that Kristen is a resource for you. So check her out. But anyway, Kristen sent a question. Thank you, Kristen. And this is what she says. She says, I love the creative inspiration in your show and the many artists you bring on as guests. Thank you, Kristen. How do I take the same spirit of creativity and light a spark in a corporate setting? I know so many solutions could be created with that exciting energy, but it feels scary to be the first to say it. Okay, so yeah, I really hate that there is this like separation of like you're either an artist or you're like in corporate worlds, because there's so many artists that work in that work at corporations. And so I hate that it's like, oh, I work a 9 to 5, or oh, I work for myself. There's like this divide because it's all just so important. And the thing I would say, I have a couple of ideas about this. And the first one that comes to mind is hosting a art exhibition. So I know, Kristen, that I don't know if you actually have like a full-time job and you do the coaching as a side job. But if, just say, for example, any corporation, right? I would suggest if there is a space in there that could be a gallery, I would suggest hosting a gallery exhibition in there. Pick a topic, get some artists that resonate with that topic and hang the work, and have a opening. Maybe the opening is during the day at lunch and you bring in some food and talk about the work, have a party around the exhibition. And you know what? Maybe you can find artists from the people that actually work in the office space. Maybe there are some artists that are really interested in showcasing their work. They might do it quietly and they don't show anybody. And now this is the perfect time for them to do that. So I would suggest hosting a art exhibition. I would also suggest maybe doing a call for art, and maybe there's someone that wants to show their work in a weekly newsletter. So maybe the corporation has a weekly newsletter. There could be some type of artist spotlight. Hey y'all, did you all know that Jim paints? Did you all know that Jim has a band? And he came out with an album? Did you know that Lisa came out with a collection of like paintings or photographs, anything like that? Check them out here and then include them in the newsletter. Like sometimes you got to put this stuff in people's face, So I think that could be a awesome way by showcasing just the artists that are in the space, or even if people don't identify as like a full-time artist, it's just something they consider a hobby. It might be a way for them to showcase their work. Another thought I had too is the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this book. I'm actually going through this book myself and I'm completing the 12th week, but it's a 12-week program that basically helps artists who feel blocked, and it gets them unblocked. So there's like a series of readings, there's a series of tasks. You're supposed to go on a weekly artist date that doesn't have to be about spending money. You can just like take time at home, like pulling out magazine images and like making a collage, and you have to write what's known to the world. Everybody knows this is morning pages, which is just 3 pages of sort of like what's it called? Stream of consciousness, a stream of consciousness of pages. I think that hosting a group of people, leading them through that book, because it is cool when you do it in groups. I think leading people through that would also be a really cool way, because again, I think sometimes when people come into corporate America and they are an artist, but they're doing corporate America for whatever reason, they feel like they're a failure, and they feel like maybe they should have pursued what they really want to pursue in their art, not realizing that they can do both, that they can do all the things. And so I feel like this book would help people see that. And they would also see other people like themselves in this group. And so then they will also be able to make friends from making friends with other artists that also work at the same job. So those are my suggestions. I just think people need to be able to see themselves as artists. I call folks at my job all the time, even in the film business, artists, because they are, like a lot of them are. They also, a lot of the crew members, they have their own art practice on the side. They'll be, making shows, they'll have bands, they'll paint, they do all sorts of stuff. And so knowing that this is a medium that artists are coming together and creating a bigger thing together is a big deal. So I feel like that kind of philosophy, being like, listen, I know we're all lawyers, but we also have these other things. I think that that's a big deal, to always acknowledge the artist inside of you. So I hope that that was helpful, because I feel like I just went on a stream of consciousness answering that question. And thank you for asking that question. And also, y'all, check out The Artist Way if you haven't. Let me know if you have or if you haven't. I would love to know your thoughts on it. All right. So the fifth and final question. Dun, 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 dun. This message comes from Miss Coleman, Miss Melody Coleman. Thank you so much, Miss Coleman, for sending a question into the podcast. Melody wants to know, what is your ultimate end goal with your podcast? To gain experience, exposure, to educate, or be informative, make people reflect, cry, laugh? What's the point of all of this? Okay, she didn't say what's the point of all this. I added that part in myself. But this is a good question. So many of these questions today are so reflective, which is something I do not do a lot of. So I'm trying, I'm trying. Today is my first day of being more reflective. The reason why I started this podcast is because I knew that with my art practice, I needed to have some sort of vehicle to market the work. And because so much of the work that I make is based on people and their stories and what they've been through, their interest, because it's so much of that, I thought that these are conversations I want to have anyway, that I will have anyway. And so why not create an archive of the conversations, and in turn hope that listeners such as yourself could learn something. And then from that, if you're entertained, great. If you cry, great. If you laugh, great. If you have something to add to the conversation, wonderful. And that's why. And then also on top of that, I really love hearing artists speak. I love talking to artists about their work. Again, these are things that I would do anyway. And so why not record these conversations, build an archive, be a part of that artist's legacy, and give other people a chance to hear what that artist is into, right? They're not asking me to do this. I'm thinking that I find their work that important that I want more people to know about it. And of course, I would love to do this with all artists. Hey, maybe I will. Maybe I'll get all artists in there. But the main point is to be able to almost do my research out loud. Do my research out loud and share it with you. And then in the meantime, drop nuggets about what's going on with my art practice along the way. So I think that it will have all of those things. But I think it's mainly to be informative and to educate folks about the art world, about artists, the way artists think. And then, hey, if somebody is listening and they really like the way the artist is speaking, they'll buy their work. It's so many things, but that's like the main piece is that I was having these conversations anyway. So why not record them and see what happens from that? Um, and and actually, like I'm working on another project, which I'll probably make like a little mini episode for around proms. And so right now I'm gathering research about people and their prom experiences. So, coming up, those would be some of the conversations you might hear. I think the podcast is like meant to be in series, is meant to be in season so that I could create a focus. So yeah, I hope that answers the question because like I said, these questions have just been so reflective and they make me think. And it's always important, to go back to the why. Like, why are you doing something? Is that why still there? And I think as I'm getting started with this, it's like you use your network and you use your friends to create these episodes while you're like learning equipment and all that. But I think that the reasons of my why are still there. And so, yeah. And I hope that you're enjoying listening to the show. I hope that. I really do. Because I enjoy making it. Like, I feel like if nobody listened to these conversations, I'm listening and I'm taking note from it. So that's good. And I hope that you are too. So thank you so much for that question, Miss Coleman, Miss Melody Coleman, wonderful woman. Okay, boom. Who, by the way, is one of my childhood best friend's moms. Isn't that awesome? She's always there, always so supportive. I hope to be like that to my kids' friends, So yeah. So thank you so much for that question. Okay, so wow, that's it. First Q&A in the books. And I am so thankful for y'all sending these questions in. There were some reflective questions in here which really made me think, and that is very, very helpful to me. And so I'm very, very thankful. And I hope that you all learned something. You have some takeaways. The thing I want to express here is that, I really want all of my episodes to always be a conversation. So if you ever want to say anything about what you hear, if you have any thoughts, please hit me up with your responses. You can always email me directly at my website, stephanie@missgraham.com. Or even easier, I have a feedback page now, and I will include that in the show notes. So make sure that you look at that. And then if you have anything, let me know. I am so thankful. Thank you so much for a wonderful season. I am so thankful to all the artists and gallerists who came forward and shared your experience and your practice with me and my audience. And you know what? Stay connected to the feed for some other bonuses that will be coming the way and surprises and all that good stuff. And I will see you in a few weeks for season 5. So once again, this is the noseyAF podcast, and I will talk to you soon. See ya.